My name is Robert Werth. I am a Research Data Management Officer at the Frankfurt University of Applied Sciences and part of HeFDI, the state initiative Hessian research data infrastructures, where 11 universities are working together and developing common infrastructures and services, of which this Hefty Data Talk today is one. It happens bi-weekly, and we discuss recent events and services and offers that come up in the area of data and software management, as well as infrastructure. And the materials that we use here, meaning the presentation as well as the recording, will be published afterwards in the Zenodo community and I think on YouTube.
It remains to be seen, but we will update you.
Yes, exactly. And so, yeah, and if you have other topics that you would like to have discussed here in the data talks, write us an email at hefty@uni-marburg.de. Maria will put this in the chat as well. And we will try and make that happen. So today we're going to talk about how we can take research data management one step further and come to reproducible research management, which from my understanding means that we not only manage our research data, but the whole research process and make it more effective and more reproducible, documented. And his vision, and especially how artificial intelligence can support that, is something that Dr. Wolfgang Stille will speak to us about right now. Dr. Stille is a researcher in informatics and chief technical officer of Hessian AI. What exactly a chief technical officer is, he must probably tell us himself. But yeah, and before he was the leader of the digital services at the University Library in Darmstadt. So without further ado, Mr. Stille, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Yes, so my name is Wolfgang Stille. I'm responsible for the scientific coordination. So you often have that construction. You have a CEO and a CTO in the scientific context. So one is responsible for the money and the funding, and the other one is responsible for the technical things and the scientific things. So, and this is my part here in Hessian AI. So I would like to talk a couple of slides about Hessian AI, so who we are and what we're doing. And then I'm just going into details what we have in mind to go the one step further from research data management towards reproducible research management. And I try to keep this quite in a general way, and but I also will illustrate so what we have in mind, especially for the field of computer science and AI, and what measures we want to invent here to make research more reproducible. So Hessian AI is a center that was founded 3 years ago by 3 Hessian ministries. It incorporates 13 Hessian universities and universities of applied sciences. There are 22 professorships in the founding faculty, and we will establish 22 new professorships with focus on AI in Hesse at all of these 13 universities. So there is 38 million euros investment in that first funding phase. We have a couple of projects in the meantime on top, which is about double as much as our initial investment. And we want to also invest into AI infrastructure because, of course, AI research needs AI compute infrastructures. And this might be also used not only by AI researchers, but for anyone who does data-driven research in the future. So this is one of our new babies, so that is called 42. The answer of our questions, hopefully, of some of the scientific questions we have. So this is a large supercomputer for AI research hosted by the GSI Helmholtz Center in Darmstadt. I also want to talk a couple of words about the AI Service Center, which is funded by BMBF, so one of our flagship projects. So here the goal is to do basic research and to bring this basic research into services for researchers, not only in the field of AI, but also in data-driven sciences. And those get, of course, more and more because virtually everything is data at the moment. And from the applications of those services, we just get new research questions for our basic research. So we just built something like a cycle from the basic research into the services, into the application, which poses new questions for basic research. So we will present a couple of services here in the next couple of months. So one service, of course, will be large language models that could be used by researchers in Hesse, but also in Germany, in order to make those language models a little bit more explainable and transparent, and going from the black box character more to the white box character, so that we see what's going on in there and we can explain how artifacts happen here. So what it is all about, it's all about the third wave of AI. So AI is not a new technology, a new technique. So it exists since the 50s. And the third wave of AI is just scalability into large scale. We have more compute resources, we have more data around, and we want to build intelligent machines that also know when they don't know. So, and this just comes from the interaction of algorithms, data, of course, but also the systems of interacting hardware. Just have in mind, for example, autonomous driving. There are a couple of systems and sensors that just interact with each other and make decisions on the basis of the data they collect. We want to raise the synergies between human and artificial intelligence, because we think artificial intelligence is like more a buddy for us humans who does things that maybe we are not able to do in a reasonable time, or we are not very good at, like finding the needle in the haystack problems. And with that, we want to transform science, but also economy and society via AI techniques. So this was just a little bit about Hash and AI. I want just to keep a focus on the status quo of research data management. So if you just have in mind the research data lifecycle, the focus of research data management, at least from my opinion, is at this point in time on accessibility and reuse of research data. So we have the fair data principles, which are good, of course, but this, from my perspective, just provides a solid basis for further activities. So we have to go one step beyond, because in AI research, it's not only about data, it's also about algorithms, it's about systems, and it's about interaction between humans and systems. So Data-driven research in principle needs extensive further support, so we have to go beyond that. And my vision is to integrate all of the digital services that we have into one seamless workflow where we have to put on data just at one point of this circle, and we can reuse it at any other point. So the long-term goal should be something like reproducible research management, that I can reproduce research results on the press of a knob, something like that. And I will a little bit elaborate on what is necessary for that and where the journey might go. So DFG, so reproducible research management, is not a new topic. So there was an appointment of replicability of research results in 2017, so 6 years ago. And DFG says that doing research results that are not replicable is like acting not according to good scientific practice. So, and as of course every researcher has to act according to good scientific practice, everything should be replicable. So I think we're not at that point yet, although 6 years have passed. And maybe, yeah, so I want to raise the question, what is necessary for that? So I think we had made good efforts in the last 10 years in terms of research data management. There is a data literacy charter, so that just says that we have to do awareness raising, we have building up competences in data literacy, which is correct, but we also have to rise awareness and competences in all the other fields of data-driven research. So that is, of course, algorithms. So what kind of algorithms do I use for what kind of problem? What are the benefits? What are the drawbacks of those methods? I have to know on which systems I can run those algorithms. There are maybe some synergetic questions I have to raise. And of course, in terms of the transformation of sciences, I have to at least document the decisions in design I made. So why did I do something like I did in this kind of research, and maybe also why not? So now we could say, when we go from research data management to reproducible research management, it's just something like from fair data to fair research. So if research is findable, is accessible, is interoperable and reusable, that could be basically it. But I don't think so that it's that easy. Maybe in some disciplines it might be that easy, but so just have in mind the 4 points of fair data management, so of fair research in that case. So findable means that we are able to find the data and the metadata. Data is machine findable and human findable. That's okay. It should be accessible. So if we know that it's there, I'm able to use it and to access it. It should be interoperable. So we can use it with other applications and workflows that are not the intrinsic research operations and workflows. So maybe use it in other contexts with other systems, and it may be reusable. So I can, this is like self-contained. I can just understand the data and I can use it in other contexts. So why is this not equal to reproducible research? So I want to illustrate that with an example from the ACM, the Association of Computational Machinery. It's a US organization for computer science research. So, and they say reproducibility of research results describes the ability of independent researchers to generate the same result as another research group using their data and experimental setup. So there is some research paper and you're able to reproduce this by doing just the same as the original research group did. And they differentiate between three different things of reproducibleness. So this is on the one hand repeatability. So we have the same team that does the same experimental setup and they get the same result. So that should be in principle the case, as long as you're not doing weird stuff with random numbers and undeterministic algorithms. So that should be possible at least. The second is reproducibility. So you have a different team, and that's what it says above, and they can reproduce the same result with the same experimental setup. So that's in principle reproducibility. And then they also define replicability. So we have a different team and they have a different experimental setup and they can reproduce the same scientific result. So this is the 3 points. They differentiate reproducibility and they recommend some labels or badges, they call it, for publication. So in principle, there are 3 kinds of labels. So one label is the artifacts have been evaluated. So you can somehow evaluate what they have written in the paper. So the artifacts are available. So you can just use them in order to reproduce it, maybe. And the results have been validated. And the validation process also incorporates 2 different labels. And one of them is results have been reproduced. So all of these badges are considered independently, and so one or more of them can be applied to any given paper, depending on the according review procedures developed by the specific journals or conferences. So this is just quite an important step because I think it incorporates not only the doing, but it also incorporates some measures how things might be evaluated. And maybe one of the things is not only training people in skills and awareness, but the other thing might also be adapting research assessment criteria in order to push the community in some certain direction. So what is the overall goal? I think the overall goal is to make all experiments, including all their artifacts, available in an appropriate manner. So this might exactly be the fair manner in order to easily reproduce and reuse code as well as data. So, and here I think the stress is on easily because many software frameworks, as you might know, are so complicated and you're not able to set them up within a day. So, and this prevents, of course, researchers who have an immense pressure to be successful to reproduce research results. So, reproducibility has to be easy and fast. And so the prerequisites are a little bit maybe more complex. So I think what we need, except for the skills and training section, is some technical things. So we need some full support of the research data lifecycle, not only for archiving and for publishing, but for all of the lifecycle. And this is quite a little bit discipline specific. So it alters if you do engineering sciences or computational engineering to doing AI or to data science. So you need some specific measures here to support this seamlessly. One other thing is an integration of code or software asset management. So as for research data management, there is also a need for research software management, as you know. And I think this has to be seen as once. So because research data without research software, and vice versa is quite doesn't make sense. So we need to somehow connect this to each other. So then we have the integration of specific infrastructure, so also very discipline specific. For example, if you do imaging, you have certain infrastructures that satisfy certain constraints or have some measuring errors and things like that. So you have to integrate this infrastructure into your software framework, and of course also in your data framework, because the infrastructure could deliver metadata as well, and that metadata you don't have to integrate manually, so this is done completely automatically. So you have to monitor and develop your experiments, your infrastructure, and your tools, because this is like in agile development, the way how it goes. So if you do experimental research, you will not do only one experiment. You normally do a series of experiments, and you want to document what you have changed and why you changed that and what works and what maybe not works. So yeah, maybe one of the hardest things is the point skills and training. And yeah, this is of course very community dependent and discipline specific. But yeah, maybe we can discuss this also later. So there, I think we are not so much the experts, so you can tell me more about that than the other way around. Okay, so what is my vision to do research, reproducible research management? So I think we have the data management plans in research data management. So and analog to those, for me it makes perfectly sense to do something like a research plan in the very beginning, just to get clear about what you want to do and what are the procedures and practices and the methods, the tools and the data you want to incorporate in your research. So this makes sense to just write 1 or 2 pages about that. So you have to do that anyway when publishing a paper. So yeah, do it in the very beginning, and many questions will arise, and those might be answered in the process of research. So what is really essential, I think, is something like an experiment registry, because at the moment we have data floating around somewhere in a research data repository in the best case. We have code floating around somewhere on GitHub. We don't know what experiment is done with what kind of code and what version of code. So we need something that keeps track of any experiment on central infrastructures, at least, along with data and the software used. So when you do, for example, high performance computing, that's quite easy because you have to upload all your stuff on a high performance computer, and you could also put in some metadata, and you have a perfect digital twin of your experiment. So this might be a little bit more complicated when doing things that are not completely virtual or digital, but maybe we can talk about later. So the idea here is just to have a registry of a single experiment. And of course, there is a versioning of that experiment when you just change something in parameters or in the data or in the algorithms, and you can document that quite easily and quite properly. So next thing is quite clear. It's open data formats and metadata standards. They will ensure interoperability and therefore also reproducibility and reuse. So that's also standard in fair data management, but it should be also be transferable to code, that things are open in the best case, as long as you don't have proprietary software. That should be possible, and it should be well documented. Software repository is also quite clear, so you need that to do your version control. of the codes. Some people also do version control of the data with that, could be possible. And this allows you to keep track of the changes in the software code and to collaborate with other researchers here in software development. So that's basically it, but there's one thing lacking. So because we said formally we want to make things easily reproducible, so we need some semantic documentation that helps us to understand how the interaction of experiments and data and code works and how the components can be used. So this is essential for reuse because, as I just said, no one would spend a day in establishing a software framework and then figuring out that it doesn't fit the needs you thought it would. So this has to be faster, and therefore you need some kind of documentation, at least some README, how you set up all the framework in order to reproduce the research results. So now I think this is one of the hardest points, is skills and training. And I just found a paper on that here from the Open Science Foundation from this year or the last year. And they just have 11 strategies for making reproducible research and open science training the norm at research institutions. So I think this is a really thick board to make. And they just distinguish three sections here. So the one is the purple section on the right-hand side, so offer training. So, and we're all doing this. So HeFDI does this, the universities do it with their PhD programs. The mentors do that, and the research stuff does this. So this is very essential, but it's just one part of the game. So the other one is adapting the research assessment criteria and the program requirements. So this is something that is usually not done by the researchers themselves, maybe by the supervisors for their PhDs, but also by the research funding organizations. And there are some steps, for example, in Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschaft and other research organizations to adapt those research assessment criteria. Ideally, this comes from the communities. So there are many communities who already want to have transparent research. They want to have the data delivered with publication submissions and so on. And yeah, this leads to the third and last point, build communities. So this can be only come from the community, so there is no one from outside who can do that. But yeah, so this usually develops from outside the community. Yeah, just an interesting paper here. I just recommend reading that because I think, yeah, just to get this into the communities and to get this into the researchers. So this is hard work, and of course you should incorporate the researchers in this work. So yeah, that was quite theoretical. I just tried to illustrate what we have in mind in the field of AI and data science research in the next couple of months or years respectively. So yeah, as I just said, one of the goals is the support for the full data lifecycle. And data lifecycles in data science or AI research are a little bit different. So, for example, we have here on the left-hand side the data science lifecycle, which incorporates also aspects from the research data management lifecycle, but of course extends this, for example, by the fields of data mining or data cleaning or data exploration. Feature engineering is just a machine learning topic. And then predictive modeling. So we have to put in some maybe microservices into that common research data lifecycle to adapt it in for the needs of the data science researchers. So there's also in software development an agile development lifecycle of design, develop, test, deploy, and review. And this could, of course, also be incorporated in the research data management lifecycle, just as another cycle here to support agile development, which makes things, of course, a little bit more complicated, but not undoable. So, yeah, I think we have to adapt those cycles according to the specific disciplines. So this is just an overview of the integration of the infrastructures I just mentioned before. So we have here on the left-hand side the services that are already existing, like a code repository or a research data repository, or maybe also digital long-term preservation systems. And of course, we use that in our discipline-specific workflow as well. So everything that is there, we won't build new from scratch, but we just use things that are existing, and we just build upon those with our other infrastructures. So on the right-hand side, this is more specific research-dependent. Identity management, of course, not. So we need some identity management systems that can be also come from the universities, or we can use ORCID or other service providers to get identities. And these we need for the experiment registry or the service registry. And this is the central hub that incorporates all of the research and service planning. We could do our data management plans in there. We can do our research planning there. And we just generate persistent identifiers for each of the experiments versions we do. So this is also not experiment specific. Maybe the ingredients are experiment specific, but this should be done for all of the experimental research we have, I think. So then below that, it gets more discipline specific here for the field of software development, which we usually have in AI and data science research. So we have CI/CD pipelines to develop our codes, to develop our models, and to deploy the pipelines we need for experiments. We have some active data management or group shares, which is important for all kind of data-driven research, that I have the possibility to modify the data, to have a look into the data, and to do this collaboratively. I think there is also a strong need in the universities to set that up for the disciplines. And then we have compute clusters or HPC systems to do the computations of this data. So this might be specific for AI, but it's also specific for engineering or everywhere where you just want to process large amounts of data. Okay, so maybe in data science it's a little bit more complicated because so this might be not so static. You have the interaction of models, of data, and of code. And so the DevOps process or the CI/CD process gets a little bit more complicated, but also not undoable. So, and this could be just replace the usual CI/CD process in the figure above, so that we can just put in here another module, and we can just with the system support another discipline by doing that. Yeah, so I don't have so many slides more. I just want to tell you what we are doing in terms of skills and training. So as I just mentioned, we have certain initiatives, so they are at the bottom here, that are already doing awareness rising and competence rising. This is, of course, to data. This is HeFDI. This is the Alice network for AI. These are PhD supporting programs like Ingenium at TU Darmstadt. We have a cluster project, the third wave of AI, and we have the NFDIs, of course, all supporting white papers, supporting services for skills and training, which we could use. And on the top, we have just different groups here of students, PhD students, early postdocs, and group leaders, and different programs that support skills and training here, from a fast track program or a specific master curricula up to summer schools and the SUSE school ELISA that is supported by DAAD, and some other qualification and networking programs. So we can make use of all of those and just bridge the gap to reproducible research management with some maybe modules we are lacking here in that program. So we don't have to do everything by ourselves. So that's the good news. But of course, there are some things to put in here. So what about transfer to other disciplines? Yeah, so for me, this is quite straightforward, except for the fact what is not digital. So maybe in engineering, we could think about something like digital twins. So because digitality makes many things very easy. And of course, reproducing a very complicated physical machine engineering setup is another thing than just getting some code from GitHub and reproducing a result. So, but in principle, I think the way I propose is transferable also to other disciplines. So, yeah, this is basically my last slide. So, because yeah, we want to concentrate on research and not on maybe data and metadata. So one of the ideas is also incorporating AI for leveraging research data management and reproducible research management. So AI can help us to do many things, especially when dealing with large amounts of data. So, for example, AI can automatically enrich our metadata, maybe from other metadata that is in a similar experiment in the repository, or other methods. We can also automatically document data. So we have a project doing exactly this. We just want to make the documentation of data easier with machine learning methods. We can clean the data automatically, especially when dealing with large amounts of data. Or we could, for example, find similar experiments in a code base or in a data repository. And on the long run, if we have enough experiments in our experiment registry, we can also do a better experiment planning from the knowledge we have in the ER knowledge base. So, but of course, this needs a lot of data, and we need many thousand or millions experiments being done. And then we can benefit from those experiments and from the results, or maybe also from the negative results from the experiments. Yeah, so just notice that AI for research data management is an active research area in computer science here at TU Darmstadt. So we have several projects where we use AI methods to do data management for several disciplines. So yeah, I just put you some literature here. So if you are interested, and yeah, so I want to thank you for listening, and I'm happy for any questions and discussion.